Hey guys, welcome to Young, Gifted and Deaf, episode 4. It's Black History Month and this is possibly going to be the most important month in Black history of the 21st century as far as I'm concerned. Maybe for you, I'll say it again. This, for me, is going to be the most important Black History Month of the 21st century. With everything that's going on in lockdown, with COVID-19, with racism, with police brutality, all of that combined in the world right now has really opened up an opportunity for a discussion in the Black community about the issues that we are facing, about the issues that haven't been discussed. I'll be honest, for the last 10 years, Black History Month hasn't filled me with much pride. It hasn't filled me with much energy. It's the same thing. I've really had to think about what I want from Black History Month. Black History Month felt more like a lamentation, so to speak. And because of that, I feel like, with the incidents that we've experienced this year alone, and it's the 9th month, 10th month of the year, and the things that we've experienced, the traumas that the Black community has experienced in the last 9 months have been something that, if we're honest, it's destroyed our spirit, it's destroyed our ability to think straight, think about, think about our next step, where are we going, what are we doing, what do we stand for, what are we fighting for? All of these questions are going through our mind. As a deaf man, there isn't a more present time for me to discuss the issues within the Black community than now, where there's so many different polarizing opinions and belief systems, so many polarizing political values. Everything is up in the air. Identity, gender, whatever it is, everything is up in the air, which means that I have the perfect opportunity to bring forward this discussion to you. A discussion that I would like to have is, am I deaf or am I Black? To you, that might seem like a very stupid question, like obviously I'm Black and deaf, so why are you asking that? It's not that simple. I'll have to use my own personal experiences as a deaf man, try to explain to you what it's like trying to fit in to the deaf community, but also what it's like trying to fit into the Black community. That there is no acceptance that even though I'm Black, I'm living with two different distinct identities. My deafness is one identity, it's a distinct identity, because deafness is not a disability, it's just a linguistic minority. Deafness is a linguistic minority, and then you have my race, which is Blackness. So wherever I go, I'll always be judged on that. So you're probably thinking, what's this got to do with Black History Month? For me, I've always seen Black History Month as something where we think about the future, we talk about what next, commemorate the past and look to the future. Black History Month is going to be emotionally charged because we've suffered so much in these last 9 months. As a deaf Black man, I've had genuine struggles with putting myself or aligning myself with the general struggle of fight injustice for Black people in general, when I don't see or can't see that same level of fight within the community to uplift the disabled within the community. When you are a disabled Black person, you face double the oppression, double the discrimination as a Black person who's able-bodied. In the Black community, you have ableism, you have autism, you have, like I said in the last episode, the biblical societal impact of disability being placed as a sin. So that has driven how disabled people are treated within the Afro-Caribbean community. Young, deaf or deaf children are growing up oppressed because their families don't have a tool by which they can communicate with. Their families have been conditioned or engineered to see disability as something that holds you back, and therefore they either try to overprotect you, which can be harmful, or they try to push you to the side. And this is something that I think needs discussing. It isn't Black history without acknowledging where we've gone wrong. I look at history not just to commemorate, I look at history to see where have we gone wrong, where did we make mistakes, and what can we do now to stop those same mistakes happening in the future. If I'm honest with you, I'm excited because I see lots of conversation, I see lots of disabled people speaking up, I see lots of people speaking their truth, and I'm like, cool, everyone's speaking. That means that everyone's using their personal experience and they're sharing their version, their view of the world, which means that I can then share my view of the world. And then when we come to in front of each other, we understand each other because we can find the similarities. But at the moment, there's so many polarizing opinions because everyone's trying to find what makes them different. They're trying to see what makes their opinion better. They're not trying to find the similarities. No one's listening to each other. As a deaf man, that's probably the most ironic thing about it. People who can hear aren't listening to each other. As a deaf man, I speak, but I'm not heard. You understand? It's literally a paradox that you can't seem to escape from. It's a paradox that as a deaf person you can't find peace because you're holding two identities, and no matter what, you have to be one or the other. You can't be both black and deaf. Society doesn't allow it. So I'm going to give you an example. Alright. It's weird, I don't know, man. I feel like there's a pressure, and that's what we're talking. There's a pressure within the black community for black people to uphold a particular image. You understand? We already have it hard as it is just being black. So we have to do 2 times more, 3 times more to ensure that we can get our foot in the door. Right? But if a white community, you don't have that pressure. So if you're a black person, you're focused on your own battles. You can't see that someone else is going through similar battles because they lack something, and that lack causes them to not have access to society in some way. So that means that it's easier for your disabled friends or disabled families to get left behind under the corner. We'll look out for you, we've got you. But that disabled person wants to stand on their own 2 feet too. And they want to be able to fight for themselves too. And they can't do that if they're always relying on other people. But when you don't have people who are willing to accommodate you or willing to try and understand you, you then have to rely on them. This is where it gets difficult and complicated. Yeah? As a deaf person, you are already aware of all the things that your parents and family are trying to protect you from. You've already made compensation before you even have the identity, or if you come from a hearing family, you're mostly assimilated into a hearing environment. You learn how to assimilate into that environment. No one teaches you, you teach yourself how to fit into that environment. But it takes so much out of you. It takes so much. Keep going, because your battle is to try and appear normal to those who are closest to you. And the people who are closest to you, their battle, their friends and family, their battle is to try and appear normal, upright, standing to white society. So in that battle, you're trying to catch up with your family when your family are trying to get access to society. Okay. You understand? Within black families, you already have so much struggle, and children are aware of that. When you are a child, you are aware of your parents' struggles. You even if they don't say it, you can read their body language. That's why sign language is so beautiful, because back as children we are doing sign language in this time. We're reading people's body language and we respond to our parents' body language. But then when we say something, we get beaten for it. You understand? So we learn to use our words. It's a psychological thing that it's so deep that unless people really start questioning the formation of relationships, how their disabled family members have adapted. That's been the problem. We've had to adapt to the surroundings because those who live in our surroundings are the majority of that group. They have the bit abled. You understand? You have to adapt in order to fit in. Another way of looking at the question, am I deaf or am I black, is this. When I was going for jobs, when I went for jobs, was I black or was I deaf? It's an interesting one. I was black. I never ever mentioned my hearing and I never mentioned my deafness in job application. The jobs that I did get access to, they found out I was deaf eventually. In order for me to get that access into society, I had to take one identity. And that identity was black. I had to remove the deaf identity and I had to suffer through in order until I got through my foot through the door and I got that job. You understand? But when I'm at home, I'm deaf. I put my hearing aid in, I'm chilling with everyone, I'm talking, or I'm involved. You understand? Even with my friends, I'm black. I'm not deaf. I'll take my hearing aid out and you understand, I was black with you guys.
I sent you a voice note.
Black deafness, people don't understand that in our society they are two distinct identities. You can get killed in certain places for being black. People notice your deafness. You can get ridiculed, mocked, and understand for being deaf. If I choose to be a deaf person, I'm choosing to set my race aside. But then when I'm deaf, I have to fight for the deaf struggles, I have to fight for the deaf issues. Deaf issues and the black issues, sometimes they clash in my head and I'm like, alright, cool. At the same time, people were fighting for George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. There was a deaf community and they were fighting for captioning or accessibility. How am I meant to fight two of these battles at the same time? My community is part of the issue, there's also a part of the problem. There's that lack of access, the lack of access for deaf people. It really makes trying to navigate the world hard because you spend, as a deaf person, you spend pretty much all your time in your mind. So that my story is, I see deafness as a form of immortality. You can walk in the world, no hearing aid, not a sound. Life is happening around you, the world is happening around you. But because you can't hear a damn thing that's happening, you are not a part of it. Like you're impervious to the world. You can walk in the world, anything could be happening. Planes could be crashing, cars could be crashing, people could be shooting. You're not going to hear anything. You should just be walking and think. And you can observe, you can see what's going on in the world. But because there's no sound, there's no interaction with it. Think of watching a TV show without the sound. How does that feel for you as a hearing person? And that's me every single day, watching TV without sound. And you get to determine, then you get to judge based on people's behaviour. All you see is their behaviour. Watch the show without sound, watch the whole show and see what type of story or context you come up with based on body language. Understand? That's a totally different way of looking at the world. So it's almost like a form of immortality. You get to think about, you can think about every single question there is to think about. You can question every single thing there is to question. You understand? And you have all the time in the world to do it because no one can disturb you. If you can't hear, who can disturb me? Although it is a good thing, it's also a bad thing because you don't have that access to the connection, that human connection that we need forever in a bubble that no one else can access. Don't have that ability to shut off. If I'm talking to someone, they can be disturbed by anything. Like, I won't hear my phone, and the only way I see my phone is if it vibrates, and so I'm not distracted by anything unless I choose to be distracted by it. That changes the way I interact with the world. I interact with my community. The way I see my community is through their actions and not through their words. I don't hear their words. We have an opportunity to start afresh. We have an opportunity to galvanize our energy, galvanize our spirit. We have an opportunity to rethink the path that we have taken and keep saying that's how we always do or that's the path we always take. Get an opportunity to move away from that and now say, look, We've had enough of walking down that same path. It's time to find a new path. Time to start discussing all of the issues that are occurring within our community and think about how are we going to solve them? How are we going to face them? How can we as a black community face the world with all of our issues without addressing the issue that we face within as well? You can't do one without doing the other. And if you do achieve one, will you rectify the other? These are the type of discussions we should be having because our future depends on it. Guys, thank you for watching Young, Gifted and Deaf episode 4. I hope you guys tune in next week. Subscribe, like, comment, share. Some amazing black deaf people that I know. I want to talk to you guys. So get into the comments, hit me up, send me a message. Thank you from Sabian at Young, Gifted and Deaf. See ya.